West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and I am back home after 2 days in Northampton doing some commentary for BBC Sport on Northants versus Leicestershire. So I was doing some comms on day 2 and day 3. That game has gone into day 4, but I'm back in London now. Leicestershire need another 5 wickets to win that match and draw an end and close to the County Championship season. Well done to Leicestershire on their promotion to Division 1. Yes, people, I commentate on cricket, believe it or not. Anyways, this particular episode is looking at Daren Sammy's press conference. When was it? Was it the start of this week or was it last week? I can't remember now. But Daren Sammy and Miles Bascombe and a few others, Jamal, did a press conference following the release of the squads for the Nepal series, which begins at the time of recording, that begins tomorrow. And of course, the India series, which begins next week. And I just thought that I'd touch briefly on some of the key talking points from that press conference. But here's the thing. I ummed and ahed about whether to do this episode only because, and if you've subscribed to Caribbean Cricket News, we dropped a new article on there today, actually looking at Trimbago's win, their 5th CPL title win today. Really dived deep into that. So if you want to subscribe to the Caribbean Cricket News, you get do you know what you get on the YouTube channel is me spitballing, yes, with some nuance, obviously, and some good analysis, but the written stuff, I reckon, is better than what we actually do on the YouTube, simply because the written stuff, I can take my time to get into the points that I'm trying to make, etc. So if you haven't subscribed, go subscribe to Caribbean Cricket News on the Counterpress platform. Got some really good stuff dropping on there. But that notwithstanding, I thought I should do an episode on the YouTube channel as well, just looking at what Sammy and Matt Bascombe and Cole spoke about. I'm kind of sanguine about it all. Like a lot of people have listened to the press conference and there's all these like hot take videos and stuff like that, and people doing deeper analysis of what Sammy said that needs to be done. There was nothing Sammy said that made me think it's that deep. Everything that he said, I could at least understand the rationale. And here's the thing that some West Indies fans, some West Indies media need to understand, right? You disagreeing with something that a head coach does is not the same as not understanding why the head coach has done it. So it is, two things can be correct at the same time. It is possible for me to hear a head coach's explanation and understand why they're saying what they're saying, but not agree with what they're saying. The two things can both be correct. But just because you don't agree doesn't mean it doesn't make sense or cannot be explained. And that's why I didn't get him. That's why I wasn't one of them ones just getting emotional about anything Sammy said in the press conference. Like I just came out of it going, well, it is what it is, you know. I can see a rationale and it is what it is. So let's just go through some of the key talking points that Sammy said. I wrote a lot of notes down. It was an hour and a half, you know, an hour and a half for a press conference, too long. Those things shouldn't be going anything long. Every journalist should only be getting maximum 2 questions. Shouldn't go anything longer than 30 to 40 minutes. When I saw an hour and a half, I was like, what on earth? If you're a Caribbean Cricket Podcast patron, by the way, I've put the audio in the Patreon for those who are patrons. So if you want to listen to it back, you can go to you can become a patron, or if you are a patron, go and listen to it yourself and make up your own mind. So I wrote down some of the key points that Sammy discussed, and when I say some of the key points, only the things that I thought were worth talking about. So I'm going to quickly kind of scuttle through them and pause every now and again on things that require any level of discussion. So first things first, I actually lost my page 1 of notes, so apologies if I've missed anything crucial out. So some key things that were mentioned. So Matthew Ford is injured and they're hoping that he will be back for the Bangladesh Limited Overs series. So that explains where he is. Then we got on to Hetty. So Sammy said that Romario Shepherd and Shafane Rutherford were arrested due to workload, and that he effectively was saying there's going to be a lot expected of them. We're 5 months away from a World Cup. We've got a T20 series coming up against Bangladesh. We've got a T20 series when we go to New Zealand at the end of the year. There's more T20s, South Africa, I think, next year. And then, of course, the World Cup itself. So he was like, you know what? Shepherd and Rutherford have played a lot of cricket. I opted not to use them. It's important that they got some rest in after CPL. Again, whether you agree with that or not, I'm not particularly bothered by it. I don't think it's anything worth getting emotional about. I don't think it's anything worth having any big discussion about. But I can't remember if it was Brandon Corlett or some journalist, or maybe Sammy just brought it up himself, I can't remember now, spoke about Shimron Hetmyer. And Sammy was quite pointed when the topic of Shimron Hetmyer came up, because by all accounts, Sammy said that he intimated that he had selected Shimron Hetmyer. That was the intimation that I got. I don't think he said it directly, but the intimation was, I selected Shimron Hetmyer, and Hetmyer made himself unavailable. And again, I'm not trying to put words in Sammy's mouth, but you kind of sensed and you picked up in the kind of, if it's possible, the body language of how Sammy was speaking and what he was saying, that he was kind of exasperated with it all. Now, I want to pick my words carefully, but at the same time, I don't care either if I say something that some people deem to be out of order. There used to be a time, let me put it like this. There used to be a time where I would say, we've just got to give Hetty a chance, and we've got to find a way to work with him, and we just got to put our arms around Hetty's shoulder and try and find a way to break bread and make him understand and get the best out of him. And here's my thing now. Dead all that talk. Dead the talk. I think I am at a point now where let me just prefix this by saying I think Shimron Hetmyer will go to the World Cup. I think he will be part of the 15-man squad that goes to the World Cup, T20 World Cup. However, if Shimron Hetmyer did not make the West Indies T20 World Cup squad, and if Shimron Hetmyer never played for the West Indies again, I don't think I'd care. Now, I'm fairly certain that some people will listen to that and they will be upset and they'll say, Mash, you shouldn't be saying things like that. We can't afford to turn our back on any cricketer. But I think I've reached a point where I'm just like, if he never played for West Indies again, I don't care. I just don't care. It doesn't seem worth the hassle. From where he was when he was 20 years old, 21 years old, where he had the world at his feet. And yes, his bank balance is big. And yes, he's an IPL star. And yes, he has loads of money. But the hassle you have to go to bring Shimron Hetmyer on side versus the returns that you get, I just don't think. I think I've reached the don't care point now, where I'm like, if he's picked, he's picked. If he's not, I don't care. If he's never picked again, I don't care. Like I think I'm basically done. Let's move on. So somebody asked, or Jason Holder's name came up. And yeah, I think somebody said, so what, is Jason Holder done with Test cricket? Because obviously Jason is in the squad to go to Nepal. Oh, sorry, I keep saying Nepal. Jason is in the T20 squad that is in Sharjah to play Nepal. He is not in the Test squad. And to be fair, Sammy basically said, Holder is an excellent player. The role that he would fulfill in the Test squad is currently filled by Justin Graves. So that's the end of the story. Now, again, here's a perfect example of where I can see why somebody's saying what they're saying. I can understand how their logic works, but I have a different take on it, but that doesn't mean that person's logic doesn't make sense. I totally understand why Daren Sammy is investing his time in Justin Graves. They've backed him, and whilst we can question how much he's producing with the bat, I think there's an argument to say that he's doing enough with the ball to have faith with him, but he needs to produce more with the bat, his 1 century versus Bangladesh notwithstanding. My personal opinion is if Jason Holder is available, Justin Graves comes out the side immediately. But I can understand why Sammy is continuing to invest in Justin Grace. I'm not mad at it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can understand it. He said that Carrie Pierre was selected on merit. Again, I got no issue with it. If you subscribe to Caribbean Cricket News, I've written about it. I did a preview of the West Indies. I wrote about the West Indies squad selected to India, wrote a mini preview of the touring squad to India. And I said, right, if you have made a decision that Gudakesh Motie is not going to India, you're not going to take an inexperienced spinner to partner Jamel Warrican. You're going to look for an experienced pro. Carrie Pierre produces every single year when he plays domestic cricket, particularly in the 4-day championship. In this context, he's just had a record-breaking year with 41 wickets. He's an experienced domestic pro. I'm not mad at the decision. It makes sense. Then he spoke about, or what I've written down in my notes is Craig Brathwaite. He said that Craig Brathwaite is not out of the reckoning. There was an acknowledgement that Craig has had a real bad run of form, and an acknowledgement or an intimation that therefore he needs some time away from the highest level of cricket. I think Sammy's exact words were, West Indies are not in any position to just drop Craig Brathwaite and never consider him again. I'm not mad with that. I think everyone has acknowledged that Craig's form since 2024 to now was down rotten, and he was fighting for his place. And it's a big decision to drop Craig because there's basically only, in fact, if we're going to be real, there's 0 openers in the region. Once you remove Craig, there are 0 openers in the region. You can say that Tagenarine Chanderpaul is one of them. Obviously, he's got that double century against Zimbabwe. He had a good start to his career in Australia, and then he had a lot of middling returns after that double ton in Zimbabwe. He's probably the next best opener after Craig, right? And that's why they've called him back. We can disagree about whether Tay should be there because he only played 3 first-class matches. But again, by all accounts, they had reached out to Tej a while ago and they had said to him, you are going to be the one who comes into the squad. Get yourself mentally in tune for that. Here's the work we want you to go through in preparation for when we call you up. And obviously, you're going to go to India. Will Tej succeed? Don't know. Possibly, probably not. But not because Tej isn't good enough. That's because there are no openers in the region. So I'm not going to judge Sammy and say, why is Tej Chanderpaul in the squad? Again, I state, I can see why. I might not agree, but I can see the justifications for it. And I'm not going to judge I'm not going to judge Sammy and the selection committee based on if Tej doesn't do well in India. I'm not going to suddenly turn around and go, you see, Sammy don't know what he's doing, because nobody's going to do well from an opener perspective. Craig's the only one that you could even begin to have any faith in, and he's down rotten right now. So any opener who can score more than 35 runs in India has probably done their job. We have to be real about where our standards are at. And then he spoke about Motie. A lot of people getting emotional and cussing about Motie. And saying, how can Sammy leave him out? He's people saying foolishness like he's the best spinner in the region and it don't make no sense. Let me just tell you lot this. And again, subscribe to Caribbean Cricket News because I wrote at length about this in the article about the West Indies test squad to India. Since that Zimbabwe tour where Motie took 19 or 21 wickets or whatever he did on that tour to Zimbabwe, since then, Motie has taken very few wickets at 40 apiece. His test match bowling average since the end of that Zimbabwe tour to now is an bowling average of 40. So let me just say to people, I think I said it to Santoki when we recorded something about I can't remember whatever show Santoki and I did. I think I said to Santoki, Motie, or maybe I did it on Instagram stories, Motie is out on merit. He's out on merit. There is no argument somebody can bring to me to say, oh, Motie should be there. No, he shouldn't. In the same way how Craig deserves to be dropped because he's down rotten, even though he's probably the best opener still, even in his down rotten state, we can agree that there's an argument to say that Craig should be dropped. And if you can make that argument, there is a clear argument to say in Test cricket, Motie should be dropped. Now, Sammy can wrap it up and say we're trying to protect him and white ball cricket and we got to go and we got to go and play Bangladesh and we got all formats against New Zealand and workload and cool. I think Sammy made all of that up. I don't think that's valid. What I know is this. irrespective of workload, Multi deserves to be out of the test side. I'm not asking anybody anything. I'm telling you, Sammy should just have been, I don't even think he needed to say anything about workload. He should have just said, puffed out his chest and said, have you studied Multi's numbers? Since the end of the Zimbabwe series, his form is horrible in Test cricket. He is out on merit. That's my personal take on it anyways. Some questions about Alec. And so I think somebody said, I thought it was a good question, actually. Somebody said to Sammy, I think it was Joel Bailey, actually. Somebody said to Sammy, a few months back, you said that Alec Athanaze and Kavem Hodge, we shouldn't be celebrating. Like, I think Sammy went on Dominican radio and he was questioned about Alec and Hodge and why they'd been dropped. And Sammy said on Dominican radio, again, that's something that I've put in the Patreon, I believe. Sammy said on Dominican radio that we are doing Alec and Kavem Hodge a disservice by saying they should be in the team when they only average 25 in the time that they've been playing for the West Indies. Now, obviously, lots of people then said, but you brought back guys who only averaged 25, Roston, Chase, Brandon King's not played no test, Shea Hope, and then obviously everyone flopped against Australia, etc., etc. But Sammy said in response to the question, my point about that was, he said, why are we talking up guys? He said, it doesn't help Alec or Kavem Hodge to talk about them and boost them up and say they should definitely be in a team when they're only averaging 25. So he said, my point wasn't that they're not good enough because they average 25. He said, the point I was trying to make is it doesn't help them by trying to elevate them and say they're good when the average is only 25. You can make of that whatever you want, but he said, either way, we're going to India, we're expecting it to spin. Therefore, it made you pick players according to who you're playing and what is needed. And that's why Alec's in the squad. Again, you might want to cuss that. You might not agree with it. I can at least understand the rationale behind it. Jamal, I always forget Jamal's surname, but Jamal said that, or was it Miles Bascombe said that the central contracts have gone to the committee for approval. And he said that we will soon find out about who's got a central contract. Obviously, because I've been privy to who's got domestic contracts. So, for example, Craig is contracted by Barbados Pride this season. So we kind of already know who's got domestic contracts, which kind of gives you an indication who is likely to get the West Indies contracts. But we're going to hear about those things very, very soon. There was probably some other stuff that Sammy said or Bascombe that we should pay attention to, but I lost my first page of notes, so I kind of had to quickly scribble down what were some of the things that were said that I may or may not have missed. If you are somebody who listened to the whole press conference, by all means get the comments below and say, oh, Mash, you forgot to mention that Sammy also said this or Bascombe also said this. I'll just end this episode, though, by saying the following. This week, Quinton de Kock did a U-turn and said he's coming back to international cricket. I said, okay, cool. Let that be a lesson to all of those T20 players who have said, I don't need to play international cricket. I'm just going to survive on the T20 franchise circuit because international cricket is dead out to me. Quinton de Kock is a stubborn guy, right? He's managed to take stock and go, hold on a minute. Is this my life? Just going from one tournament to another, opening a suitcase, closing a suitcase. And I think he's looked at it and gone, this don't match the camaraderie that comes from playing for the Proteas and the brotherhood and what it actually means to play for my nation and scale the heights of my nation. He's probably seen South Africa win World Test Championship and say, rah, I ducked out. Obviously, he's come out for ODIs, but I've ducked out of all of this. I'm still only 32 years old. What did I duck out for? He's been humble enough to say, I think I got it wrong. I'm looking at a couple of our guys and saying, you sure you done the right thing? You good, yeah? You all right, yeah? I'm Machel St. Patrick here at one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I make no apologies about the way I talk. I make no apologies about the way I write. I'm unapologetically real. I've been Machel St. Patrick here at one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Algorithm. All the descriptors below. If you want to support us financially, head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. Subscribe to the brand new Caribbean Cricket News site. Big stuff being written on there. All of the descriptors are in the description below. And if you don't want to do any of that, you could buy me a coffee. If you don't want to do that, you can use Super Chat or Super Thanks. Or you can do none of that and just press like, share, subscribe. We'll be back very, very soon with some more content. Look out for that. Peace.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.